Om Shanti, hope you all doing fine. In one of his interviews, Mike Tyson revealed how fearful he is despite huge success. So there is this unknown fear that he carries with him all the time. So today we are going to see the root cause of his fear and also the permanent cure for that. He was born and raised in an area filled with hooliganism, robbery, kidnapping, stealing, and prostitution. Mike Tyson was basically a timid child in his early years, but it was when he was around 8 or 10, he was confronting a thug who stole his pet pigeon and killed it right before his eyes. That infuriated Mike Tyson, and he started having fight with him, and he even won the fight. So that shocked the gangsters of that area, and he was welcomed to be among their crowd. That's when he started taking part in burglary and other rowdy acts. Even as a child, he used to fight for money. Even before he was 12, he went to prison for around 40 times. He says that he was grown in an environment where rowdyism and prostitution are quite normal day to day routines. When he was in prison, he was seeing great boxer Muhammad Ali for the first time, and the first thought he had was, I wanted to be like him. And luckily or unluckily, he was meeting a boxer who actually helped him to train him to be a boxer himself. He managed to win the heavyweight championship by the time he was just 15 years old. He was famous for knocking out his enemies within few seconds. So that made him very popular among youths. After getting continuous success, he started becoming a billionaire, and he used to spend money extravagantly. So he used to spend money on drugs, women, like that. But by the time he was 25, he was accused of committing a rape, and he was sentenced to prison for 6 years. He was there in prison for 3 years, and then he came out. So till today, he refuses that accusation. He says that he had committed many crimes worth getting him imprisoned, but that particular rape case, that was something he did not do it. That could be true because that's how we are punished for our past sins. While we were doing many bigger sins, we would be escaping, but we will be punished for a minor sin. Only then it is going to be something that we can't bear. So that's the kind of punishment that we get all the time. Even after returning from prison, he was able to succeed in boxing. But at one point, he gained more weight, and he was not flexible enough to face the opponent. So he failed very badly in a match. But this time, Mike Tyson said that he was not willing to fight any longer because that aggressiveness in him was no more with him. He even revealed in an interview that he used to break down and cry before every fight, mainly because he was going to turn into someone he honestly hated. He says that he had this strange love of destroying the opponent. And that is the reason when he was not physically fit to fight with the opponent, he even ended up biting his opponent's ear. Although Mike Tyson says he hates to be that aggressive guy inside the boxing ring, but still, I don't think it is easy for him to come out of that aggressive behavior totally. Because even recently, he was having fight with a co-passenger in a flight for somewhat irritating him. Also, another thing he revealed in an interview was when his daughter died at the age of 4, he completely broke down and he was asking for someone to hand him a gun. And he had no idea, but he said without the gun, he would go crazy. So, that kind of aggressive behavior at that time should reveal why there are many massive shootings happening in America nowadays. The very reason that he was born in an area filled with hooliganism and prostitution itself reveals the kind of sinful karma he must have committed in his past births. Because that's what happens when we end up committing many murders in our past births. We will be put into a place where the everything around us will make us to carry out the same kind of sin again. And that is exactly what happened with Mike Tyson when his pet was killed right before his eyes. And unfortunately, he was meeting someone who was training him into boxing, which actually strengthens that hooliganistic attitude even more. Even now, at the age of 55, he is still giving training to kids in boxing. So, that is definitely not good for his spirit. We always get angry because of fear. Mike Tyson revealed that he wanted to win all the fights mainly to please his coach, who was more like a fatherly figure to him. He was willing to go to any extent to please him, which actually means he is doing that out of fear of not losing him. And also, that fear was even more worsened after the loss of his young daughter. Because after encountering the death of our loved one for the first time, we will automatically be start worrying about losing the other loved ones. And that is one of the reasons for his persistent fear. Although we have enough money and success, we know deep within that they can't provide protection to our loved ones like forever. As I mentioned in my previous video, the fear is an indication of the weak soul. And if a soul is strong, it wouldn't have any idea of what fear is, no matter what happens around him. Obviously, in his childhood, Mike Tyson, due to his involvement with many street fights, will always be living in fear because obviously he will have created a lot of enemies who can come after him anytime. So he was obviously be living in fear. That fear follows him into his adulthood. So instead of treating that fear, he was just reacting to that fear in a negative way by getting angry. But obviously, we know after certain age, we will not in a position physically to show our strength. That's when we start getting afraid of everything that happens around us. Especially, we worry about losing everybody and everything around us. And the reality is, definitely, we are going to lose everything and everybody around us sooner or later. And that is the main reason not only Mike Tyson but every one of us is afraid of soon after crossing their 40s. Because they know deep within they cannot take care of everybody around them. Because death happens when you least expect it. So there is obviously no guarantee that we will be taking care of our loved ones till their death. And also, we have absolutely no control over the behavior of our loved ones because they can change anytime. Even that aspect threatens us even more. We don't need anything to happen to us for us to be afraid of. If we get bedridden, no matter what kind of a positive thinker you were before that, you would still be having a lot of negative thoughts soon after you start getting bedridden for a long time. It is not because you are bedridden that you are having those negative thoughts, because you are you have absolutely no control over your mind, and neither you did anything to have control over your mind that you started having those negative thoughts when you have nothing else to do. That is why people in their old age will have more negative thoughts than when they were physically active. And the main knowledge for fear is the lack of knowledge of soul. We souls are imperishable and eternal. We always reside here in one body or another. And everything we possess, including the family, depends on the amount of uh, account of charity or account of sins. If you have committed more sins in your past, you will obviously be born into a family which is not good, into an area which is going to be filled with rowdyism and prostitution. On the other hand, if you have committed many acts of charity, then you will obviously be born into a decent family, into a decent area, so that you will not have to encounter these negative things. So the very fact that we are born into a negative environment should itself caution us to be very cautious. But unfortunately, nobody is going to warn us of the same. Our souls become more and more weak as we commit more and more sins, and also as we get attached to more and more things and persons. Likewise, our souls get more and more strength as you get yourself detached from everything around you, including your own body, because this body, this perishable body, is not us. It is only the soul that shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows that controls this body, and we are the souls and not this body. 5000 years ago, when God created this world as heaven, we were all created as naturally soul conscious, which means we were aware of the fact that we were souls that sees through the eyes, that listens through the ears, that speaks through the mouth, that performs all activities using our body. And that is the reason we were spiritually more powerful, which means we do not have the tendency to get attached emotionally to everything that we come in contact with. As a result, we stayed happy all the time because happiness, blissfulness, and peacefulness are the true nature of all souls. It is because we were constantly conscious of us being souls that we were constantly blissful for the first 2500 years when this world continued to be heaven. And the next 2500 years, the world slowly becomes hell because we were no longer soul conscious. We considered ourselves to be body, because of which we were no longer happy and peaceful from within. So we depended on the external things for us to remain happy and peaceful. But unfortunately, anything external to us have no capacity to make us, to keep us peaceful and blissful all the time. So they are going to be short lived, and also they are going to deceive us. What will start as happiness in the beginning will soon turn to something that causes sorrow. So that's the true nature of sensual pleasures. It is by our addiction to sensual pleasures our souls become more and more weak, because of which we cannot differentiate between the right and wrong. Thereby, we end up committing more and more sinful acts, because of which we got punished in the form of diseases, negative relationships, and natural calamities. And now you know the reason for why the world is so cruel nowadays. It is because we are becoming more and more body conscious that we become so addicted to the five main vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. Even fear is an outcome of being body conscious. And God says there will be absolutely no fear when you are soul conscious. So, if you are able to be soul conscious all the time, which means you have become very powerful spiritually. So, in order for you to be soul conscious and be powerful, you should be able to consider yourself to be the soul and also connect your mind to the Supreme Soul, who is called God Shiva by Hindus, Allah by Muslims, and Heavenly Godfather by Christians. God is also a soul just like us. The only difference between Him and us is we enter this birth and death cycle that lasts for 5,000 years, while God stays away from entering this birth and death cycle. But still, He comes 100 years before the destruction of this world, because only He has this knowledge about this world cycle and about how to make us back into soul conscious, so that enabling us to take birth in heaven again. Because soon after the destruction of this world, which can happen anytime soon, this world will be converted into heaven, which is going to be absolutely free of any traces of sorrow and pain. So God resides in a golden red colored light world called the soul world, or Parandam or Parlok. And even we souls, before taking birth in heaven, resided along with God. And we will be leaving this body after the destruction of this world back to the soul world. But we need to become pure before we enter the soul world. So the only way to purify ourselves is to remember God as a point of light in the golden red colored light world as much as possible, after considering ourselves to be souls. So in order to be in remembrance of God as much as possible, we also need to keep our mind busy with the knowledge of God, which is called Murli, which is available absolutely free of cost in all Brahmakumaris Rajyog meditation centers that spread across the globe. You can Google it yourself for the address of the nearest Brahmakumari center in your area. And this Brahmakumari Rajoga meditation is run directly by God Himself, and the knowledge that we receive from Brahmakumari's institution is the knowledge we receive directly from God and not from any human. Only God knows the way to purify us. And the way is pretty simple. We need to consider ourselves to be souls as much as possible, and also we need to remember God as a point of light as much as possible. So, by listening to the knowledge, we will be getting answers to all the questions that has been keeping us peaceless. For example, it is not our parents or spouses or children that keeps us safe, but it is our account of charity that protects us. If we have committed more accounts of charity, then you are safe no matter if your loved ones are going to stay with you or they are going to leave you. Because it is your charity that is protecting you in the form of your loved ones. If you have no account of charity but you are filled with account of sins, then no matter who is around you to safeguard you, you will still not be protected. You will still be living in fear. Moreover, everyone is perishable and changeable except God. That is why it is smart to always have the company of God by being in remembrance of Him all the time, and also keeping our mind busy with the knowledge points of God. So when you are able to stay soul conscious all the time, you will be surprised to see that your mind is no longer producing any waste or negative thoughts. Because the soul is weak, it is creating negative thoughts like the thoughts of fear. But if you are able to stay soul conscious, you will be surprised to find yourself constantly in a blissful state, because that is the true nature of the soul. So we need to keep this law of karma in our mind constantly. It is only our past karma that is going to protect us. So if you want your loved ones to be safe, just give them this knowledge, because there is nothing much we can do. And once you know this truth, you will no longer consider yourself to be responsible for everybody around you. So that itself should free you from this unknown fear. So I strongly believe that Mike Tyson should stop doing what he is doing now, which is training people into boxing, because it is because of his boxing he has lost his inner peace. So why bother guiding everybody to follow the same wrong path? Instead, I want him to divert himself into the spiritual path 100%, because that way not only he is going to feel safe, but also he is going to make others feel safe as well by being a guide to them. Because after getting so many experiences from his life, I believe he is the right person to inspire others to turn spiritual. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching. Hope this video brings a great positive change in your life. If so, please do let us know in the comment section. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching.